Alright, everybody, welcome back to a new video. Hopefully the audio is better this time. And I wanted to talk today about how I use the Hell Hades optimizer. The reason I wanted to make this video is that I am in an endgame clan, and there is a significant amount of people I come across who either don't use the optimizer or aren't using it efficiently. And by efficiently, I mean how I use it. I will preface this video by saying I'm going to show how I like to do it. There are multiple features within the optimizer I don't use or know how to use. So if you know how to use those, feel free. But I'm going to go through how I use it and kind of how it speeds up or what the quality of life features that it adds to the game are. So first thing I thought I would cover is a little bit of how you might be able to use this feature. So, in the game, just to go over a few of the qualifications I have to talk about this, I've got a pretty decent champ roster that requires me to gear and ungear a lot of different champs depending on the content I'm working on. I am in an endgame clan. You can see we got one spot open. If you're interested, send me a message. But we perform at a pretty high level, so gearing and ungearing for Hydra, Chimera, Siege, every single week requires a lot of work, and the optimizer is a great way to help with that. So, going back to the optimizer, I will go through the tabs that I use. The first one is going to start with the Champions tab, and I'm going to go in order going down. What I'm going to cover is Champions, Team Optimizer, and guess what? That's it. I don't really touch the rest. Within the Champions tab, you can see your list of all your champions and then a ton of filters on the left. One thing to note is if you don't see like a newly pulled champion or you don't have gear that's quite up to date, you can always pull up your optimizer window that comes with the tool and ensure that you have a website link status showing your link is established. As far as I'm aware, this will show red if there is no connection, which means it is not updating from your game. So always make sure when you're using the optimizer, if you want live information, that this is all green. So let's go through and gear a champion that how I would normally gear them. Now I just pulled a Nice, so I'm going to go through and gear him because I know he has no gear on. And I'm just going to click on him, and the first thing you'll see is a blank window showing what he currently would be wearing, along with a bunch of different filters for stats, skills, ratings, masteries. Primarily all I'm going to do from this screen every time is go into optimize. From here I have it always default to the GPU optimizer, not 100% sure what any of these features do. And then from here you can also choose what form we want to optimize for a mythical champion. If they are a legendary or below, this will not be an option, but you can choose the base or alternate. For this showcase, I want to show the alternate form, and then I also want to show a damage mode. And from here you can choose the highest overall damage, just the A1 or the A2. I'm going to go with the highest overall damage here, and once you click your mode, you'll see a bunch of different tabs appeared for how to optimize a champion. Going into the presets, I normally skip this tab. I don't have anything set in here. Going to configure, this is going to talk about how it wants to treat the artifacts that you're assigning to the champion. First thing it's going to show up is the max, the primary artifact bonus. You're going to click yes on here, and you want to include equipped artifacts most of the time unless you have a use for a champion where you know you don't want to touch any of your equipped artifacts. You can also include artifacts required from an artifact set regardless of a lock status, and you can include artifacts on lock champions. Up here in the top, you can see that there's a lock setting for each champion. I just clicked the lock and turned Nice to 5, but there's also a 4, 3, 2, and 1. I will say I am a premium subscriber to the Hell Hades optimizer. I do not know which features are free or premium, so I'm going to solely talk about the premium features that I know. If I want a Nice to be a champion that is only lock priority number 1, then what I could do in here is say, you know what, all my other lock priority number 1 champions, if I don't want to touch their gear in the future, I will include artifacts on lock champions, but then I can exclude number 1 So I'll take my gear from lock priority 2 through 5 without touching Nice's gear if I keep him at lock priority 1. If I'm trying to build a champion a specific set and I know I have a limited access on my account, or I just want the best gear of that set, then I can go include artifacts from acquired sets regardless of the status, and this will take gear from a set I choose even if Nice is locked in the future. Generally what I do is I include the equipped artifacts, and then I exclude lock priority 1 and 2, which is where I have my PvE and PvP champions. Over on the right, you'll see the minimum artifact level. I always set that to 0. That way we can look at any artifact that I haven't upgraded, and it'll treat it as if I can put it on the champion and then upgrade it to 16. For masteries, I don't have any masteries chosen for Nice. If I were to go through and pick masteries, it would automatically have these displayed. And then if I wanted to try out different masteries to get a better optimization, I could say, you know what, I'm going to have crit rate and I'm going to have crit damage. Even though these don't match what's in the game, I can put them on there just for a test, or I can reset and go back to what is live in game. For this optimization, I know I'm going to have crit rate and the crit damage when I choose his masteries, so I'm going to go with those. For the battle, in here you can select different types of battles that you're going to be going into, and it'll optimize specifically for that. So if I were doing Nice in Hydra for some reason, I could come here, click on Hydra Rotation 1, select my Nightmare difficulty level, and then I can also look at the stats that the enemy has, choose the buffs and debuffs that the enemy is going to have at the same time, and I can also choose the aura and buffs and debuffs that Nice is going to have at the same time. What I generally do in here for most optimizations is I keep it in general, I keep it under wave, the target level of 60. When we're talking about PvP, a lot of times I see the optimization set at about 8,000 defense and 150,000 health. Now this right here is going to give me the best damage I can against a pretty tanky champion with a lot of health. Hopefully it's going to include some ignore defense artifacts in order to break this. It's just going to give me the best performance in PvP. If I was going for a Faction War stage, I might go in here and click on Faction War Barbarians and go to a different stage. But in general, I always keep it here at 60, around 8,000 defense, and 150,000 HP. Next tab is going to be your stats. This is going to be where you can put your minimum and maximum stats for each category right here. You'll notice that because we chose at the start damage mode, under the stats tab, it's automatically choosing a crit rate of 100%. If we had a champion that could self-buff crit rate, or we had an aura that gave us crit rate, or if we didn't need crit rate, like on a Titus champion, we could override this and put it to any number we want. For this showcase, I'm going to say I want 100%. One thing to note is if I had chosen balanced mode and I go into the stats, it's going to be a completely different screen with a bunch of priorities. This will allow me to set different priorities for my champion. So I could say 300 speed with 100 crit rate, and I could put I want the highest amount of HP as possible and the highest amount of crit damage, and I could even go so far as to say I want only 350 crit damage minimum and say 90,000 HP minimum. I'm going to go back and do the damage mode for this one. There's also a survival mode, and instead of having the priority, the survival mode is just going to give you the most effective HP on the champion as possible. On any nuker, I generally go with the damage mode. Under the stats tab, I want Nice to have 90,000 HP, 300 speed, optimized for 100% crit rate. I want a minimum of 350 crit damage, and then the optimizer itself is going to go in and say, all right, using these minimums, how can I give you the most damage possible? But you can set your own minimums and maximums as you see fit. Within the slots, in here you can say whether you want to include each different slot. So whether you want to say, I have a good weapon, if it's already on the champion, you can say you don't want to include it. A lot of people will automatically gear their accessories in the game by hand, so you cannot include those. Little thing, but this will speed up the optimizer if you're going through a lot of gear or you're doing a pretty long optimization for a team. If you manually put the accessories on, it is going to help. For this, I'm going to make sure that the optimizer is going through those. And I can also go in here and say whether I want the Ascension stat to be the current stat, or I could say, you know what, give me HP. And what this is going to do is it's going to say this weapon is going to optimize with the current Ascension, or if the health Ascension helps me meet these stats and damage better, it will go with that. As an example of this, if I choose crit rate for the gloves, it could give me a build with only 90% crit rate and assume that I'm going to optimize the gloves to have an Ascension of critical rate, which will add 10 crit rate to the gloves. So if I choose this, just know that you need to go in the actual game and use Dust to get the correct Ascension if you want to use this feature. You can leave it at current, or if you want truly the best build possible, you could say, you know what, give me critical damage or critical rate. Choose any of them. The optimizer will give you what's the best Ascension to go for your damage. Similar for boots, I'm generally always going to want speed or the damage stat itself. For the sets, I'm going to go in here, and just for this nice build, I'm going to say I want lethal and stone skin. And you can also say I want 4 pieces of stone skin. That's going to give them 1 turn and then a lethal set. You can also include and exclude specific artifacts in here. Say I know I don't want any protection. I could go and make sure that protection is not included here. So add your sets. You can remove them pretty easily and mess around. There's a glyph screen. In here you can go in and say what type of glyph you're going to be adding, for how many glyphs you can apply to all of your gear. One thing to note is that if you choose, say, 4 speed here, every single piece of gear on your slots here, if it has speed and you're maximizing speed or you want the most speed possible, it's going to assume you are rolling +4 speed on your weapon, helmet, shield, gloves, chest, boots, and banner. If you put it down here in the glyph section, it assumes you're hitting the maximum glyph level. So if you come down here and put 12 and you run your optimizer and it's showing you at 350 speed, but in game you're only 300, well, the reason was because you told the optimizer you wanted the glyphs to go to 12, and you might have only have rolled to 5 or something like that. So always be careful with your glyph level. You want to go with what you can reasonably do on each piece of gear. So I usually go with a 4 for speed and 5 for attack, damage, defense, and then I can always roll higher if I need to. And from there, you can click on the screen optimize button, and it's going to bring you to this screen. The search limiter. I see a lot of people saying that the Hell Hades optimizer takes a significant amount of time. One thing that I mentioned could reduce the time is if you're not optimizing your accessories. So if you manually put them on and then you exclude them here, that'll speed it up. But another thing you can do is just scroll this bar down. I find that somewhere around the 20s to 30s is relatively decent. And I can start the optimizer, and right here we see it's going to take a minute, and we can see, hey, it found no gear. Well, why is that? It's because based on the settings I put of ignoring these locked champions of priority 1 and 2, and having a need for 300 speed with 90,000 HP, 350 crit damage, it's not going to do it. So let's change the build up a little just for this, and I'll say, you know what, let's lower it to 250 speed and not care about anything else. I'll let the optimizer handle how much damage I want. I'm going to put it to about 25, restart the optimization, and you can see almost immediately it finds some builds, and it's going to spend another 15 seconds going through, double checking a few things, and making sure it's giving us the best build. If you take that scroll bar that we just saw and you raise it up higher, it's going to iterate more times through the search, could find you some better builds. Generally, I find if you keep it around that 30 mark, it's going to find you a good build. You can view them as a list, or you can view them as a card. You can go in here, you click on the card, and it's going to show you the stats. So this build, again, is optimizing for most damage. And we can see it's giving us about 84k HP at 250 speed, which was my minimum. So it's keeping us at the bare minimum. And 305 crit damage. If I click into the card, I can actually see what champions the gear is on and whether they're locked or not. Some of the gear is also not on any champion. The best feature of the optimizer, in my opinion, is the equipping in-game. Now, in order to make sure you are equipping in-game, we are going to go back to the game right here. We're going to go to the champion screen, and you'll notice that once you go to the champion screen, the equip in-game option will appear for you. If you hit equip in-game, over on the game window, it's going to pull up that champion, and it's going to put the gear on the champion in the fitting room, which is a great feature, so you can see what the current stats are and what it is going to go to once you equip these items. Now, say I go to equip this, and then you say, you know what? I really don't want to include this helmet from Diamant on my champion. I can take it off, and then now it's going to give me the gear that I can equip with that helmet removed. One thing to note, don't know if you saw this, I equip it to the gear for Nice. When I clicked equip in game, it took me to Nice's player card, but once I took that piece of gear off, it defaulted me to Lazarius. Now you may wonder, why did that happen? It's because when I went to the champion screen, Lazarius was my first champion selected. If you do not select the champion you want to equip in game, and I just hit equip in the optimizer again, now I can go in there and take the helm off of Nice, and you can see when I remove it, it stays on Nice. However, if I go back to Lazarius or even Embrys, I hit equip in game, it's showing me that build again. If I take off that piece, you can see it goes to Embrys. So you want to be careful and make sure whoever you're optimizing, you're either paying attention to that or you click on the champion you want to optimize first, because this has screwed over a lot of my builds in the past by me not seeing that the champion was not selected. If you like the build, you can hit equip, and then they've now been equipped in-game with that item. It saves you a ton of time compared to what you can do just by hand manually going through pieces. Outside of the champion screen and the optimization, there are a few other things you can do in the champion screen. This right here at the home page is just going to give you all of your champions. There's a filter for the lock priority. You can see if I go to my priority 1, these are all the champions that I don't want to take any gear from for one reason or another, and that's why I'll exclude them from most optimizations. Say I don't want Skrank to have priority 1 anymore, I can go in here, click 0, and he's not going to be locked anymore. If I go back to the champion screen, you can see for filter of lock priority 1, he is now gone. If you do unfilter, it will show all your champions. And say you're doing an account rebuild and you know you have priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all filled up with a bunch of different champions, there is an option here in the top right to unlock all of your champions. It will make you confirm OK, because it can undo a lot of work if you accidentally hit this. I'm going to cancel for now, but there is a way to quickly unlock all the champions if you want to. You can filter by the champion's name. You can filter by a bunch of different filters. What I find the most useful here is the lock priority and also the skills filter. This mostly is for Faction Wars Hard that I found I've been using it, but you can go through here, look for a specific skill that you want. Say I want to place sleep because I need to place a certain number of debuffs on the champions. Well, I can click sleep and it's going to show me all my champions that have any sort of sleep debuff. Go in there, steel buff. It'll show me all my champions that can do that. This is a great way if you're doing Chimera Trials or Faction Wars Hard conditions to be able to filter your champions there. On the champion screen, that's pretty much all I use. The next screen that I use is the Team Optimizer. This one is pretty useful if you don't know how to approach a certain stage. Now, I will say this is mostly good for dungeons. I do find it struggles a little bit in Chimera. If you're looking to do a specific amount of trials, it can be hard for that. I also found that for Hydra, one thing I don't like about the optimizer, not sure anybody else's opinion, it's got rotation 1 through 6. At the point of the game I'm at, rotation really doesn't matter for me. I kind of wish these were all combined and I could just see maximum Hydra damage without having to click through each one and go through the teams. But I'll leave the complaining for later. Say I wanted to build a Fire Knight team, which is what I was working on here. Going into the Team Optimizer tab, clicking on Fire Knight, I can go to normal or hard. For me, I wanted stage 10, and then easy as this, I can just hit find team. From what I understand, what this is doing is finding all the teams of people who had the optimizer running while they completed the dungeon, and it will tell you the team they used. I believe this is a premium feature, but I can click into the team and go on view team, and it will actually show me all the gear sets that the champions have, all their awaken levels, the blessings that were chosen, the stats of every single champion, the masteries of every single champion. It is an amazing feature. So if I had all these champions, which I do because the optimizer only shows me champions I have, I can just go into the variations, click on this team, and you know what? I like this team, I want to run it. I can actually hit add to optimizer, and then in an abridged version to the champion screen optimizer that we were looking at earlier, you can actually run through a smaller version of that UI here, every single champion, and then hit optimize, and it'll optimize all 5 of these champions. I can hit equip in game, and I can get this entire team geared just like the user who ran this team earlier within 10 minutes of my time. Now for here, I'm not going to build this team, so I'm going to reset it, go back to 10 and hit find team. You can also do a few filters here and say, you know what, I want 100% success rate. I don't want it to fail. And I can even say, well, you know, it's really easy to get 100% success rate with 10 runs, but a little bit harder in 46 runs. I can apply that filter, and it's only going to show me teams that had over 46 battles at 100% success rate. So you can know these teams here are most likely teams that will never fail. You can see this one here has 511 battles, and it's never failed for this user. You can come in here, view the team, and you can go and do the optimize feature. One thing I don't like about this feature here is there's no way to exclude blessings as far as I can tell. If you look in these main teams for Fire Knight, every single champion under the max time is going to have 6-star blessings. I don't have a 6-star Annie or a 6-star Razelvarg, so in reality, even though I have the champions to run this team, I can't run this team and have it perform like the user here can. So that does make it a little bit harder having to comb through and use the optimizer for those features. But those are the 2 reasons that I use the optimizer. It can help you find a team really quick. You do have to click in and then verify things like blessings and gear sets and speeds to make sure you can meet those, but it'll give you a great place to start for teams, and you can see there are hundreds of options as you scroll through here, and the champion management feature to be able to optimize individual champions and gear them all with less than a minute worth of time is going to be significantly faster than if you were doing this in-game yourself. So those are the 2 things I use the optimizer for. Do you guys use it for anything else? If so, let me know. I might be able to apply it to my game. I know there's a whole artifact feature in here. I don't really use it too much. It is a little bit clunky in my opinion, but I do know a lot of people use it with great success. So let me know if you do use that, and let me know what else you guys use the optimizer for. Hopefully you found something in this video at least a little bit helpful, or maybe you didn't know it and you learned something from it. Anyways, I have been Nemager, and appreciate you staying this long into the video.